everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Coffee and Crimes. I am your host, as always, Tyler Groff von Rebick. That's right. The Groff is back. And today we're going to be talking about Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. So, hope everyone had a good Halloween. Hope you got a bunch of candy. Hope you got a bunch of tricks. Well, hopefully you didn't get any tricks. I hope you got a bunch of treats. Treats are the important thing. Unless you're me and you got, tooth problems from hell, in which case then it's like, you get all the treats you want, but you can't eat them because they friggin' hurt. And it's like, I just bite into something hard and it's like, I broke another tooth. But I digress. Our episode that we did Halloween night on Richard Chase, the vampire of Sacramento, it was a pretty dark episode. I was not anticipating that it would be that dark, but needless to say, it was. I hope you enjoyed the special effects. No, I will not have these special effects for every episode. I'm sorry. We're here to do true crime, not mystery, horror, wonder, fantasy bullshit. Not in the future we're going to. In the future we're going to have our ghosts and goblins and ghouls and all that kind of stuff. Not at the moment though, because my microphone went kaput, so unfortunately I'm out of a microphone. So back to just having the camera being held and using my voice. So if you can't hear me, I apologize. Maybe turn the camera up turn your volume up all the way. Maybe you'll be able to hear me. And if you can't hear me through that, hook it up to your car speaker. And if you can't hear me through that, then I'm sorry. I can only talk so loud. I'm not going to yell into the camera. Oh, that's good coffee right there. All right. Let's get into it. Many serial killers evolve over long periods of time into the monsters they will be known as. Some, however, start out bad and just seem to get worse. And that seems to be the pretty common lot with the people we cover on this episode, on this series. That Albert Fish guy, he didn't seem, and then Pee Wee Gaskins, they all didn't seem to be very good to start out with. But then again, they also got abused really bad. So I guess that might have something to do with it. I always come back to Albert Fish. I don't know, that episode still gives me the chills and freaks me out. The subject of today's episode is based on that very fact, starting off on the bad side and just getting worse as time goes by. Early life. Gary Leon Ridgway was born on February 18th, 1948 in Salt Lake City, Utah. He was the second of three sons born to Mormon parents, Thomas and Mary Ridgway. Gary's mother was described as domineering and prone to engage in violent arguments with his father. His father, Thomas, was a city bus driver whose favorite pastime was complaining about the rampant prostitution plaguing the city. Yes, well, you don't get out there and do anything about it. Like in a productive way. Then again, I don't really know how you would go about fixing that, but I'm sure walking around bitching about it probably isn't going to help either. Ridgway suffered from chronic bedwetting until he turned 13, with his mother washing his genitalia after every instance of it. This led to him having conflicted fantasies of being sexually attracted to her and wanting to kill her at the same time. Okay. School was difficult for Ridgway due to dyslexia and poor social skills. He ended up having to repeat a year of high school due to these shortcomings. He was tested with an IQ score in the low 80s. So he's down there, yeah. I think 100 is the average. I took an IQ test several years ago, and it said like 150, and that was That was several years, several beers, long time ago. So I probably wouldn't even clock in at 150. I'd probably clock in at like, I don't know, 130. But then again, then what's his name? Forrest Gump. He clocked in at what, like 75, I think it was. And I know Forrest Gump isn't real, but 75 is the level of mental disability. So maybe Ridgway is not that far off. Around this time, Ridgway fell in love with a fellow student named Claudia Craig. At the age of 16, Ridgway manipulated a boy in the woods near his home and stabbed him in the ribs. Though the child lived, Ridgway wanted to have the experience of what it was like to kill someone. The boy survived the assault, but sustained damage to his liver and his ribs. Okay, did the boy call for help? Did Ridgway get in trouble? Let's find out. Ridgway graduated Tyee High School in 1969, married Claudia in 1970, and enlisted in the Navy. Okay, I guess he didn't get in trouble. After finishing training, Ridgway was shipped to Vietnam, serving on a supply ship where he saw conflict. Ridgway took advantage of his shore leaves, engaging in several of the brothels, often without a rubber, and ended up contracting gonorrhea. Ooh. His discrepancies and his wife's own discrepancies back home led to Claudia seeking a divorce, and the marriage ended in 1972. Well done, Gary. Adulthood. Ridgway left the Navy and took a job painting trucks. He managed to hold on to this job for the next 30 years. Well, that's good. That's good. I mean, I always said once I hit 20 years at something, I'm going to retire from it. I mean, I've been writing books for the last 15 years, so I got 5 years left. But due to like the writer's block and all the years I've taken off because I couldn't write anything productive, I probably don't have that many years actually of writing books. So I don't get to retire anytime soon from that. He remarried in 1973 to a woman named Marcia Winslow. This union produced a son named Matthew in 1975. During his second marriage, Ridgway converted to the Baptist movement of Christianity. He grew increasingly fanatical about his faith, delivering sermons to people in acts of aggressive evangelism, reading his Bible loudly both at home and at work, and thrusting the teachings of his pastor upon his wife and son. Despite this newfound religious zeal, Ridgway still engaged in sex with streetwalkers and was described to have an utterly insatiable sexual urge, often pushing his wife to engage in sex in public and at home several times a day. In public? What, so people can see? What would that be called? Coddlism? Coddlism. No, coddlism is when you show like nude pictures of your wife to your friends and you get some kind of a thrill out of that. Voyeurism, exhibitionism, that's what it is. Why are we talking about this? His second marriage ended in 1981 due to multiple infidelities on both sides. What is that? Why? I mean, with him, I can understand, but then again, the woman, she's probably, never mind. I'm not going to judge anybody on this. Ridgway continued to seek the services of sex workers, admitting to having an intense obsession with them. Yeah, sounds like it. Citing a love-hate relationship. In an act of some bitter form of self-loathing, Ridgway would denounce the presence of prostitution in his neighborhood, but at the same time would seek them out as much as possible. He's a hypocrite. Fantastic. I mean, I guess we could already figure that out with him being like an evangelist, and then also what was the name of that Christian minister? Eddie Long. If I remember correctly, supposedly or allegedly or whatever. Eddie Long was like this super homophobic preacher that was later found to be having like gay sex with underage members of his congregation or something. Like, that is like the biggest form of hypocrisy I could ever. Like, I mean, if you're gay, that's fine, whatever. But like, if you're gonna preach anti-gay and then you're gonna be gay behind the scenes, it's like you're doing everyone a misservice, including yourself. So just be who you are, unless you're like a pedophile, in which case seek counseling. Yeah, we're learning a lot of philosophy here today, aren't we? Well, I call this coffee and philosophy. No, I'm just kidding. We're not going to make that channel. Murders. Ridgway began killing usually sex workers or runaways. In the 1980s, he would often gain the trust of his intended victim by showing her a picture of his son, Matthew, or of his ID, and would drive them to a desolate area where he would engage them in sex. After finishing, he would strangle them from behind, sometimes manually, and then dump their body in clusters. Clusters? Why is he dumping them in clusters? He would pose the bodies occasionally, even coming back to engage in sex with... Oh my god. Ugh. What's that fucking necrophilia? What is up with that? The last few people we've talked about did that too. Like that Chase and Panzram and Gaskins and Fish. I mean, what is that? Why do people get so turned on with dead bodies? Do you know what happens to a body when it dies? I mean, it bloats and it starts falling apart. Oh, God. Ugh. People have no friggin' compassion. What in the world is that shit? Ridgway was obsessively meticulous about not getting caught. He used gloves, changed the tires on his truck, and would purposely contaminate the areas with cigarettes, chewing gum wrappers, trash, and papers that he found to throw off any potential police tracking. At one point, on February 23, 1983, Ridgway was stopped by a police officer while he was driving with a sex worker named Kelly McGinnis, and questioned him. He stated they were simply going on a date, and the officer released them. 4 months later, Kelly went missing, and her body has never been found. Good job, cop. In April of that year, 18-year-old Marie Malvar was working the streets while her boyfriend/pimp... That goes back to what that caudalism I was talking about. That's not... I mean, that's... watched from a distance. She entered a pickup truck and appeared to get into a fight with the driver. The truck sped off while Malvar's boyfriend tried to follow, but he was caught by a stoplight and forced to watch as the truck disappeared. 3 days later, a search party of family located the truck to Ridgway's house, where the police questioned him. Ridgway denied knowing Malvar or anything about her. The police took note and left without issue. Seriously? They know they got the truck. It was his truck. God. Damn, cops. Get on the ball. Ridgway killed his victims in King County, Washington, dumping them in or around the Green River. The bodies located there earned Ridgway the moniker Green River Killer, though Ridgway is also known to have dumped victims across state lines into Oregon, where he would dump them in an attempt to throw the police off his track. His official victim list is of the following. Oh my. Wendy Lee Caulfield, 16. Giselle Ann Lavorne, 17. Deborah Lynn Bonner, 23. Marcia Faye Chapman, 31. Cynthia Jane Hines, 17. Opal Charmaine Mills, 16. Terry Renee Milligan, 16. Mary Bridget Meehan, 18. Deborah Lorraine Estes, 15. Linda Jane Rule, 16. Denise Darcel Bush, 23. Shonda Leah Summers, 16. Shirley Marie Sherrill, 18. Rebecca Becky Marrero, 20. Colleen Renee Brockman, 15. Sandra Denise Major, 20. Wendy Stevens, 14. Alma Ann Smith, 18. Dolores Laverne Williams, 17. Gail Lynn Matthews, 23. Andrea Marion Childers, 19. Sandra K. Gabbert, 17. Kimmy Kai Pitzor, 16. Marie M. Malvar, 18. Carol Ann Christensen, 21. Martina Teresa Authorly, 18. Cheryl Lee Wims, 18. Yvonne Shelley Antosh, 19. Carrie Ann Royce, 15. Constance Elizabeth Nahan, 19. Kelly Marie Ware, 22. Tina Marie Thompson, 21. April Dawn Buttram, 16. Debbie Mae Abernathy, 26. Tracy Ann Winston, 19. Maureen Sue Feeney, 19. Mary Sue Bello, 25. Pammy Annette Avent, 15. Delise Louise Plager, 22. Kimberly L. Nelson, 21. Lisa Yates, 19. Mary Exita West, 16. Cindy Ann Smith, 17. Patricia Michelle Barzak, 19. Roberta Joseph Hayes, 21. Marta Reeves, 36. Patricia Yellowrobe, 38. Jane Doe B17, who was between 14 and 18, and Jane Doe B20, who was between 13 and 24. Wow. Rest in peace. That's terrible. That's like 40-something people right there. Ridgway was arrested in 1982 for solicitation, a charge he would later be arrested for in 2001. In 1983, Ridgway was considered a suspect in the Green River case. However, he managed to pass a polygraph test in 1984 and was excused as a suspect by the police. What? I mean, I know, like I've heard somewhere that polygraphs are only like 51% correct at times. So I mean, yeah, that's a little over half. But I mean, even if he passed the polygraph test, does that really not show that he was like? What about the truck? You know, get samples. He was later asked to provide hair and saliva samples for forensic intentions in 1987. Okay, good. Glad they heard me. Yes, because my telling them to do something really is going to affect a case that happened 40-something years ago. Police investigators had investigated the killings with extreme attention, including questioning condemned serial killer Ted Bundy, who was also known to dump bodies in the Green River area. And while Bundy didn't provide much help for current killings, he did wind up revealing evidence of his own cases. Good job, Ted, dumbass. Well, I'm not saying he's a dumbass because, not that he wasn't trying to help, but that he ended up, showing his own ass. So it's like, good job, Ted. Idiot. In 1985, Ridgway began dating Judith Mawson, eventually marrying her in 1988. Mawson had no idea that Ridgway was a serial killer, but she took note of certain oddities about him and his house, including the fact that his carpet had been torn out. This was later idealized to have been for use in disposing of a body. During Ridgway's marriage to Mawson, his killing spree went down drastically, and he only committed 3 murders during his marriage. Okay. He claimed that he truly loved her more than any woman he had been with, and her attention kept him from going after the sex workers that he had been killing. Oh, that's good. But it's not, it would have been better if he just didn't kill anyone at all, but, the fact that he only committed 3 murders. I know it's still 3 people. I know, and it's kind of harsh to look at the bright side, but it's good that he did that because it could have been killing more, like he had been killing before he got married. It would have been better if he didn't kill anyone at all. And, I'm going to stop before I get, canceled or something. Arrest and trial. The samples that Ridgway provided in 1987 were later subjected to DNA profiling for the suspected identity of the Green River killer. These ended up matching with a semen sample left in one of the victims. On November 30th, 2001, Ridgway was arrested at the Kenworth truck factory he had maintained steady employment with. The arrest indicted Ridgway to the deaths of Marcia Chapman, Opal Mills, Cynthia Hines, and Carol Ann Christensen. Thanks to a forensic scientist accurately identifying spray paint used at the Kenworth factory, into microscopic evidence, the indictment was extended to include the murders of Wendy Caulfield, Deborah Bonner, and Deborah Eastus. Ridgway quickly lawyered up in jail, and on November 5th, 2003, he entered a guilty plea for 48 charges of aggravated first-degree murder. This was part of a deal made with the district attorney in June, in which Ridgway would plead guilty to everything, and in exchange, he would be spared the death penalty. Oh, bullshit. Why do they do... What? Okay, I'm going to rant for a second. Why do they do that? Why do they give him plea deals? This guy obviously needs to die. I'm not saying that like he needs to be murdered, but he needs to be executed because he's a mass murderer. Same thing with the Gaskins and the Butcher Baker dude. What's his name? Hanson? Yeah. I mean, these guys obviously need to be put down, like, because they're evil. So why give them a plea deal where they get 10,000 years in prison? Yeah, that's normal. Hey, we're going to live 10,000 years. No. And they're just going to bury him and everything. That's stupid. Honestly, if they get a plea deal, the deal should be they provide all the evidence about who they killed, where they killed them, where they dumped their bodies at, and then the plea deal should be that they get to decide how they get executed, like hanging, firing squad, gas chamber, electrocution. I don't know, fed to wild chihuahuas. I don't know, but something. Is that a bad idea on that? Is that a bad mindset? Please argue in the comments. The plea deal made with the district attorney in June, to which Ridgway would plead guilty to everything in exchange would be spared the death penalty. One part of his deal was that he would reveal the sites of his victims' remains along with other details and bits of information. That year, Ridgway led investigators to 3 bodies. Later in August, the body of a 16-year-old girl was located near Enumclaw, Washington. She was later identified as Pammy Annette Oven. Excuse me. The remains of Marie Malvar and April Buttram were found in September. On December 18, 2003, the King County Superior Court Judge Richard Jones sentenced Ridgway to a total of 48 life sentences without parole to be served consecutively, along with 10 years for tampering with evidence of each victim, which totaled out in 400 to 480 years. He was later given another life sentence after a 49th victim was found. See, that's 480 years, plus 49 life sentences that they totaled up. Why? Just execute him. You put him on the death penalty, and then, I don't know, do the Russian thing. Take him to the basement and blow his head off or something. Ridgway stated that he hated sex workers, finding them easy to kill, and that he had turned the murders into a career. On December 31st, 2003, Ridgway claimed in an interview that he had committed over 71 murders, having had sex with each one of them before killing them. Originally, he would have sex with the bodies of the victims up until eventually he started burying them in crude graves to resist his insatiable urge to molest them. See, this dude is whacked. He's a psycho. He's killed. Now he's saying he's killed 71 people and had sex with them and their bodies. Come on, don't give him life in prison. Don't give him 2,000 life sentences. Just end it. Just end him right there. Boom. That's my opinion. I'm sorry if you disagree. Ridgway claimed to have purposely left the bodies in clusters near a landmark. That way he could drive past the landmarks and think back to all the women he had killed and left near those landmarks. Was he expecting to get caught? I mean, is that the only reason why he would do that? That sounds like the good way. That sounds like the good way to remember what happened when if you get caught. Aftermath. Gary Ridgway was sentenced to solitary confinement in Washington State Pen in Walla Walla. I don't know it either. On January 2004. In 2015, he was transferred to the USP Florence High in Colorado. Later that year, he was transferred back to Walla Walla for further criminal investigations. Ridgway has been suspected of the murder of 6 more victims that have been identified to the Green River Killer case, but he has denied murdering most of them. A task force has been created to continue the search for evidence linking the death to Ridgway. There were another 6 disappearances that Ridgway had been suspected of, but has since been widely ruled out of many of them. Final notes. Ridgway was found guilty of 49 murders, but confessed to 71 and has been suspected of over 80. Prior to the arrest and revelation of Gary Ridgway, the police had suspected several different people, ultimately considering William Stevens of being the Green River Killer. Unsolved Mysteries would make an episode based on these suspicions in 1996, though Stevens himself passed away in 1991 of pancreatic cancer. I wonder if they, sent his family a big bouquet of flowers and an apology letter, because I'd probably be pretty pissed off. The Green River Killer has been subject in various episodes of true crime shows. Obviously, it was a matter of time before it wound up on Coffee and Crimes. Yeah, it's just a matter of time before it gets on here. We're out there. We're out here, y'all. If you think a case is too discreet or too wildly popular, trust me. Eventually, we'll get to it. Let's see. Discovery Channel on an episode. And it had been explored on Investigation Discovery Channel on an episode of Cold Case Files, an episode of Beyond Reasonable Doubt, special programs on Netflix, and inspiring episodes of Criminal Minds and other crime shows. There have been movies based on the case, including the 2005 Green River Killer and the 2008 Lifetime film The Capture the Green River Killer, which was loosely based on the events. Come on, if you're gonna make a movie about a famous murder case or something, you're going to change the name. I mean, you might change the names, yeah. If the victims' families ask you to, if the victims are still alive out there or something, not that it matters. You can just Google this shit and you can just find their names and where they live and everything like that. I mean, seriously, it's not that difficult to find people's information online. I mean, it's crazy. Judith Mawson would later claim in a televised interview she believes her love for Ridgway kept him from committing various more murders and that she saved people's lives by keeping his attention on her. Yeah, I'd say she's right. I mean, he did only kill 3 people when he was married to her, so as opposed to the 45, 46, 68 he said he killed them. I mean, they got him born, I don't know. Matthew Ridgway, the only child of Gary Ridgway. I'm not good at math, I'm sorry. Matthew Ridgway, the only child of Gary Ridgway, lives in California with his family. He's been interviewed and has revealed his father was a normal father to him. They camped together, playing baseball and riding motorcycles. Sometimes they would go to garage sales and swamp meets, buying old watches, furniture, and goods that they would fix up and repair. Matthew remembers his father Gary being mostly quiet, struggling with words, and needing to make to-do lists due to short-term memory issues. Matthew is part of the special case of showing that some serial killers detach from the murderers themselves when they're with their family, as shown with the children of previously covered episodes, including Albert Fish, Robert Hansen, and Donald Henry Gaskins. That is true. Albert Fish was like the psycho. I know we talk about Albert Fish a lot on this, but I mean, he was like evil, like children, was killing children left and right, molesting them and everything. But he had like 10 children himself, and he never like molested them or anything. He let them hit him. He let them spank him with a nail-setted paddle, and even inspired their friends to do it. So I mean, hey, maybe that's abuse, but it sounds like that's abuse to him, which he likes. So obviously, I'm sorry, I'm getting off that. This episode was dark. It was grim. It was gruesome. I don't like it, but then again, these cases are interesting. I mean, like the introduction in the beginning said, people start out bad and they just get worse. This Gary Ridgway guy, I mean, he seemed like he was just a ticking time bomb before he would have, exploded and turned into like the mass murdering psycho he was. I mean, he tried to kill that one kid in the forest and stuff that one time, and then he got involved with like heavy religion and he had gonorrhea. I'm sure he got that fixed though. Thank you for watching this episode of Coffee and Crimes. I have been your host, Tyler Groff von Revick. I will see you next time.